Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
Greetings, and welcome back to the Soul Citizens. I'm GriffinGamingRPG, and we are back for the last weekend in the month of January, and I'm back with some cool dudes, some space bros this week. We're going to be talking about delivering the goods, but before we get into that, let me introduce who we have here. First of all, on the far left there, we've got AbdiYohan. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm happy to be here. Always happy to be on Soul Citizens, man. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, that's good. Listen, we got to start having the AbdiYohan show. You're going to have to bring like the wife and the kids and put them in the background and stuff so we can
Abdi and the family.
Yeah, listen, y'all, Abdi's a family man, and we are encouraging him to be a family man, but we're going to have to get his family on the show one day. It's good to see you, man.
It would be chaos. I got to get my daughter on the flight sticks though. She's got to get used to the T-16,000.
Oh boy, you're gonna ruin her already. Okay.
18 months, man. You got to get them started young.
Oh God. Okay. And on your far right, we have Kalrati. What's up, my man?
Hey, Griff. Hey, beautiful people. It's good to be here. It's good to be here on this beautiful Sunday. For some people on a Monday, but yes, I'm really excited to hear and talk about what we have today.
You know what? I've never asked you this. Why do you always have the burning wreck in the background? I'm sure there's some significance to that. Is that like your kills or something that you do in the game just to kind of let people know that you're dangerous or what?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I have a few ones based on my mood, you know. So I mean, I have this one, and then I could always switch to the, to the one that actually brings on the thing. But I'm just gonna keep that as is.
That's fine.
But yeah,
that's fine. Okay. I always said that maybe there's some significance to that because he always has this fire going in the background. But you're a fiery kind of guy, so that's okay.
Yeah, I like to bring the fire.
There you go, bringing the fire. All right. And last but not least, we have a guest on the show. It's our first time on Soul Citizens with us. A lot of you guys have seen him before streaming on Twitch, but we've got DigitalMaster137 here with us. How are you, man?
I'm good. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Love you, gentlemen, and I love the show. And again, it's an honor. Absolutely.
Yeah, we got a chance to meet you when we did the Content Creator Summit, right?
Yes,
and
that's right.
And you didn't know that we had been eyeballing your show already. And I said, well, you know what? We got to go ahead and see if we can get this guy on the show. And
bring him on.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
We're happy to have you on, man. You got a great show, positive. You guys check them out. Tell them where they can find you at. Where can people find you?
Sure, primarily YouTube. I do have a Twitch channel, Digital Master Gaming, but YouTube is the primary location at the moment. Digital Master Gaming. You can also find me on Twitter and TikTok. I do TikTok videos too as well. So
Can we get someone to post his links in the chat?
Yeah, in fact, yeah, he can.
I'm saying that selfishly because I need to do that too.
Yeah.
I can actually give you my link tree. I can paste that in
Yeah,
somewhere.
just drop it in. Just drop it in Twitch. Yeah, that'll be great.
Gotcha.
And I'll make sure it gets into the YouTube channel. That's great. Yeah, and I forgot that is where I saw you was YouTube, because now that I think about it, I saw your videos.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do have a Twitch channel though, so you can. I'm glad you mentioned it, but I don't stream yet.
Okay.
Strong yet.
Okay. No
We'll
problem.
see.
No problem.
I'm considering it.
No problem at all. Hey, Thrakazog, thank you so much. What is up with our alert? It has not been ringing recently. Thrakazog, thank you so much for that resub. We appreciate that, and that community sub as well. And once again, good evening to everybody who's here. I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting because there's no reason why Streamlabs is not playing noise when it rings. I'll have to figure that out. We had an update on our streaming software recently, so maybe it has
Is that what you're gonna call him? You're gonna call Whammer Noise?
Well, no, it wasn't that.
Whammer.
No. That's the James Brown thing we missed out on. I mean, I can make Whammer. I can. Matter of fact, thank you for saying that, because I actually can make Whammer come up. Okay.
Oh no.
All right, so I can do Whammer. Okay, but our Streamlabs is what's jacked up right now, and I don't know what's
Nightmare
going on
fuel.
with that.
I love Whammer.
Yeah, I know. You got to bring Whammer in. Okay, so listen, let's talk a little bit about what the show is today. For those of you who are here today, the show is called Delivering the Goods, and we really built this around the Cargo Refactor. We had put this in a few months back, talking about what was going to happen with it. We've been waiting for it with great anticipation. Finally, we got the Cargo Refactor. There was a lot of theory crafting of what a Cargo Refactor would be. Some people were content with what we got. Some people were a little bit like, I thought it was going to be way more than that. But it is tier 0. And I think a lot of us were kind of looking at maybe tier 2 type stuff, when really just getting it into the game is a pretty big deal, right, Kalrati? I mean, for what they've done, and we're going to talk about some of it. Maybe it's because we've been used to carrying a single little 1/8 SCU box around. We didn't think that it would be a big deal, but it is bigger than that, right? The Cargo Refactor, even in the current state of tier 0.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even for example, you could imagine what salvaging would have been like without the Cargo Refactor if they brought salvaging online before the Cargo Refactor. So it touches on a lot of things other than just cargo and trading, even at tier 0. So it brings a lot, it brings a lot of different opportunities.
You know what else it does? It shrinks the Congo line. That's the other thing it does. I can tell you that. We didn't even get to that subject, right? That's a whole nother thing, right?
Oh yeah.
But we are going to get into that thing because we're going to see some video about that in a little bit. So let's go ahead and we're going to do some background first for you guys, okay? One of the things, hey, Abby, thank you for that resub as well. Thank you so much. Let's talk about. Well, let's put some background behind this, right? Because there are some things that had to be in place before Cargo Refactor came in. One of the first things is what we call PES, the Persistent Entity Streaming. Now, this is the description that they have from CIG. It allows for the game world to persist, be saved and restored, allowing for more meaningful changes and progression, as well as better crash redundancy. It saves and tracks ships, items, and entities' positions and locational data, allowing the world server data to persist potentially forever. Keep that word potentially in mind, because it is not intended for stuff to stay in the game forever. At least some things are not intended to stay in the game forever. Digital Master, let me talk to you first. I'm gonna go with DM so that I don't have to mess up your name every time I say it.
No problem.
Once you saw PES, I mean, I know everybody had anticipation for PES, right? Because we went through this whole thing with iCache, we went through this thing with a whole lot of different things, Rot Socks, and there was these reiterations and rebuildings of something that we had been hearing about since 2017. And then finally it gets another new name, right? Oh, it was called Persistent Entity Streaming. Were you feeling pretty confident about it? I mean, it was the end of the year, last quarter. You know, a lot was counting on this with 318. What were your feelings about PES coming out?
You know what? It's funny when it comes to this sort of thing, because I always go into things not assuming, but sort of expecting that things can go wrong or that there will be setbacks. Because as you know, I know Jared says a lot, that change is the only constant. But in the game development and in IT period, that's a reality. So for me, I never had this, I never hung on to those earlier dates. But as far as what PES was designed to do, I did. I had a lot of confidence in it because just listening to even the CitizenCon from, I think it was 2 years ago, 1 year or 2 years ago. But Benoit and Paul, I think it was, they were really breaking down, what server meshing was, but they also touched on the entity graph information. And they would mention things like PES. And for me, it made sense because that's the first part of what they had to really break down and get right before we could even start the conversation of server meshing, right? So for me, I knew it was a big undertaking and that it was going to be huge for the game in general. And so, yeah, once it came in, I was excited about it, but I was very eager to, start testing it. So once it went to wave 1, I was pretty excited.
Okay. Abdi, what about you? And I don't know. I know sometimes you're in the game a lot, sometimes you're not. You're raising a little child. So, coming back to this, and I'm assuming that you kind of came back to it, right? And you said you have been in PTU. What were your feelings about it the first time you saw that this thing was actually working? It's actually there now.
It was one of those things where with foundational tech, you have high hopes, but that, just like Digital Master said, since it is foundational tech, it wouldn't be something that you could just easily slap on there. For the people that thought that would be the case, that's kind of strange to me because maybe, again, I've worked in software and I know that when you're working on really big things, like really big goals, that those goals sometimes take a little bit longer. You run into things that you couldn't even plan for. But the fact that they got it into the PTU in any state was very encouraging for me. And then to see it in wave 1, I know everyone's hoping for it to go to wave 2, but just to see them get it into wave 1 was also something that was really great, because once they get it into the initial waves, once they get it into Evocati and then wave 1, they do such a great job of cleaning things up. Not perfect, but making sure that as they expand to the larger waves, that the game doesn't just completely fall apart, because they want to make sure that it's something that they can release to live. So it got into wave 1, and honestly, that was to me one of the biggest hurdles, seeing them be able to do that. And now I know that it's it can be a reality, and that's exciting because they'll iterate, they'll fix where they need to fix, and then they'll continue working on this as they move into server meshing, and that is exciting. This is one of those good times to just be like, 318 claps to snaps to everybody on the development team, because this was a big undertaking.
You mentioned some good points there, because weirdly enough, of all the weird things that was janky when 318 came out to us in PTU, the PES was not the thing. PES was actually running pretty good. It was other stuff that was crashing and falling apart, but the thing that we were most worried about actually was fairly consistent and stable, which is surprising because it was the new tech, right? It was some of the other things that we were dealing with, stuff that had been in the game already that was kind of on the frizzles, but that's because it's old stuff and they have to deal with the code and everything else. Kalrati, I want to, and guys, I understand the reason why we're talking about PES. I know you say we're supposed to be talking about, the goods and cargo and the Cargo Refactor, but this stuff is foundational to it for later on. So I'm gonna hit one more thing and then we're going to move past this. And Kalrati, I want to ask you, a lot of times people will look at this game and say, oh, they're working on persistence. What's the big deal with that? Persistence is in a lot of games already, right? If I play 7 Days to Die, I can go build a house and put some stuff on the ground and put some stuff on the table and go away and come back, and the stuff is still there, right? And it's a multiplayer game. It's an MMO. What's so different about this, though? Why is persistent? First of all, why does it take so long? Because if it's an old technology, now, I don't mean the way CIG is doing it, but I'm saying if persistence is a thing that's been in games before, what's so different with this game that made CIG have to do something different with it? Something that what was their tweak to it that said, no, we can't do what's been in other games because Star Citizen is going to be blah? If you had to say, what would be the reasons for that?
I would say emergence. For example, emergence and the amount of information that even in terms of the activity, etc., the amount of items and basically everything that we interact with in the game over a long period of time. I remember when Chad McKinney had made a comment on iCache, for example, and mind you, compared to what PES is supposed to do, iCache isn't. We now know. Isn't supposed to actually be able to be at the same caliber.
Mm-hmm.
But when we hoped at the time that iCache was going to be it, I remember that he made a comment that iCache was more than enough for the traditional MMO. I think the person who asked about it was referring to Elder Scrolls Online. Right? Chad McKinney had commented that he worked on Elder Scrolls Online, and he said that even iCache was something that was more than enough for that game. So to really describe the demand that Star Citizen has, in terms of the amount of information that it requires to communicate between client and server and the whole persistence database, it means that the whole impact and the purpose of PES is to support that emergence. For example, at the Xenothreat test in 3.18, we see that they don't actually have to put in or design any intended gameplay. That actually speaks to itself because of persistence, because it's actually able to allow items to persist in the world, stay in the world, to actually grab the attention of different players. And through that, different players are going to be interacting with each other. That can spew a whole, different probability of many different activities and actions in the game. So other than the services that it can directly, provide, the activity and experiences that it can actually spew is, well, I guess the skies, or rather the cosmos, is the limit, right?
Oh, Griff?
Yeah, sound.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I muted you because I was typing.
there
Sorry
we
about
go.
that. I said, no, that's a great point. And I said, there's some examples already in the game that reflect this. And I've seen some people kind of complaining about it, but it's a reality. One of them is Xenothreat. It's been the fact that when there's crashes and blowups, there's all this debris that's laying around out in space, right? When I'm playing 7 Days to Die, I'm just using that as an example. Yeah, I can move some things, I can create some things, I can build some things, but it's not like every cabinet or this is accessible, everything is, you know what I mean? There's some things that are just artwork. There's not millions of entities literally being created, I remember when some of you may remember when the 890 first came out, when it was in the PTU. I don't know if any of you guys remember this. Everything in the 890 was movable. The glassware, the champagne bottles, and I got so excited. I'm like, "Oh my god!" The bottle of Jean, the bottle of Jean-Luc. You can pick it up now, and the champagne glasses. When that sucker went live, they put some serious super glue on that stuff. Nothing moved anymore, right? Because think about all the entities that are on the 890. All the items that are on there, right? And we're talking about just everything that's on there. CIG later on wants to make it so that you can put furniture down, move it around, all this other stuff in a universe, not in a town. When I'm playing, like you said, when I'm playing 7 Days to Die, I'm in a town. You know what I mean? It's like a 15 by 15 or something like that, or 8 by 8. When you start talking about a universe, that's not the same old persistent engine that you've seen in other games. So a lot of times, I know there are people say, "Well, persistence is the whole thing. Why is it taking them so long?" Because they're building it for a freaking universe. And I don't know if there's anything that, and maybe you guys know something, maybe somebody in chat knows something. Is there a game where there's a universe with persistence? And I'm not talking about an MMO like World of Warcraft or even Eve. Yeah, because Eve even got that level of persistence. Not like that. Not like that. Right. It's got persistence, but not like that. But I'm talking about a physicalized world, that's physicalized. A Second Life might be the closest thing that I could think about. And even that is limited. That's a one world. You're not talking about freaking universe per se, not universe, but systems and galaxies and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Right.
So I
can't think of anything myself.
Yeah. So I just wanted to lay that down as a foundation, guys, so that when we get into this, you'll start to understand why PES is so critical. And thank you, Kalrati, for laying that out, because it is important. The other thing I want to talk about is inventory. How is this stuff with cargo to you guys going to affect inventory? Because for right now, this is inventory for us, right? I mean, it's like you open your mobi-glass, you've got your personal items. They've added components and things like that, paints and all that other stuff. But you haven't seen like the cargo for your ships. You haven't seen, they've got the, what's the little thing called knickknacks? You've got that down there to tell you what's on the planet. But how do you think this whole cargo refactor thing now will reflect, whether it's through the Moby Glass or whatever. DM, I'm gonna go to you first on this one. You got any ideas, or do you just see how it can expand into it, however you see it expanding into it?
Yeah, actually, very much so, because, if we're talking about PES2, is the persistence of the state of all the things that you own, right? It's not just the fact that you own it, it's about the state that it's in as well. So as far as where I see it going, I think PS and the whole Cargo Refactor really starts starts us down the road toward it just sort of, glassing, if you will, where, right now it's just, these physicalized, what do you call them, 1SCU cargo boxes in our cargo holds. But even as they start to, build out the hangars for us, like, the Cargo Refactor becomes a huge deal for that. Like in many ways, I mean, of course, I think they could have done this without PS, the hangars specifically. But if you think about it, when we get those hangars, they can continue to build on to what everything is supposed to be eventually. Like you got, I think Todd Pappy was talking about the frozen cargo as one example, right? So you got to preserve the state of that. So the Cargo Refactor, though, it just, as we are, of course, we talk about the piracy. We talk about how that 3.18 is supposed to be the golden age of piracy and whatnot. So just that little detail there about what Cargo Refactor brings to the table, it's a lot. It opens up so many gameplay loops, so many gameplay opportunities. I did another video where I traded with someone. They did the salvaging, and then I just purchased it through I forgot the name of the app that you can purchase it or do, trade credits with other players. But I paid 60,000 out for UC. And then I went and physically with the tractor beam tool, moved all the cargo. We both did moved all the cargo from his cargo hold to my hull A. And I went and traded it for about 130 Alpha UC, something you could not have done, prior to 3.18. So it really starts to open up the door to a lot of emergent gameplay, a lot of what CIG has always been intending to do with cargo specifically, right? And so they can also start to think about bringing in the whole C now, which they are planning on doing, I think, either 3.19 or 4.0. We can expect that, but I'm really looking forward to that. The whole sea is one of my favorite ships, so just little things like that. So the Cargo Refactor really does start to open up a lot of opportunities for the game.
Yeah. Abdi, what about you? Inventory. What ways do you see inventory with the Cargo Refactor, or are you looking forward to being implemented?
I mean, I'm hoping that there will be some maybe some more sophisticated ways of being able to do that transfer. Just so that right now when we do refueling, we have kind of a way of not really always the best, but it's a good tier 0 way of being able to say, this is how much I want, this is how much you're going to get, and stuff like that. Right. But trading between players, I think, is super cool, and being able to do that. If there was a way to be able to you come onto someone's C2 or something, and that this area of the cargo grid is theirs, and you do your transfer in your Mo Trader, but maybe not Mo Trader, maybe it's something else, like a different app on your Moby Glass, and then you got a done deal there. I think that would be super cool. We'll see what they're able to pull off with that, but right now I feel like even just with the way the persistence is, not the persistent universe is, like Digital Master was saying, creating that emergent gameplay where players are able to interact with each other is always a good first step. Just like giving us the tools and seeing how that develops, I feel like can oftentimes shape how the developers end up building in those apps too. So I feel like this will be a really interesting time for CIG to see what we do, so that they can kind of get an idea of what tools to kind of put around things, if needed, and make that a better experience for people.
Okay. Kalrati, any thoughts? Inventory?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I have to say that earlier today, I went to salvage something at Arsenal 1, and I saw, I think it was a Hercules, a C2, and a Vulture salvaging near an 890 jump, and it was two different players, and at least two different ships. They were both blue, so they were both being piloted, and it was really nice to see that they were working together. So most likely, what would have happened is that after the Vulture was full, and we have transferred it to the C2 and waited until it was full, and then it was that would go back and sell its cargo, while the Vulture continued to do its thing. So it was really nice to see that, you know, they're definitely making use of the Cargo Refactor, because when I remember when I was playing Freelancer, when we used to do our mining and everything, and, you know, they would actually transfer it to a cargo ship, they would, you know, go and do that. And that's something that I was definitely looking forward to, you know, physicalized sense in the game after that. So it was nice to see. And I have a whole bunch of different things, but I know that we have certain things that we're going to cover later tonight that they will actually definitely fit in there. So I'm going to hold my tongue.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we're giving you guys these two primary things, PES and inventory. All right, because those are both important for cargo handling. Let's go back to something here. I call it the evolution of the box. Okay, as you guys know, this is where it all started. You know, the box. You know, first they were static. All you had to do was go to a console, say what you wanted. You went back to your ship, and the magic genie had your ship already stocked up with whatever you needed. And when you got where you had to go, you went back to a kiosk, and the magic genie pulled everything off. You didn't have to do anything other than squeeze past them when you got on your ship, right? Then we got delivery missions. And this was if those of you who were around back in the day, there was a term that people got so excited about called grabby hands, right? Being able to reach out and pick up something and carry it. We were just so excited about that. And then we got tired of it. So I want to talk a little bit about this, because delivery missions have now become, or the box missions, let me call them that. They have become like that way of introducing people to the world of Star Citizen. When they come in, people say, what can I do in Star Citizen? And a lot of times people will say, start with a box mission. One, they usually have some type of starter ship up to an Avenger or something like that, a Cutlass. Secondly, it allows them to learn how to just figure out the keystrokes in the game. Thirdly, when they're doing these missions from location to location, they start to learn where different moons and where certain bases are on the moons and planets. This patch, they've now expanded the box missions. They've become something a little bit different. We're going to talk about those in a minute, but I want to reflect back on the box missions before 318. DM, did you do them? Did you ignore them? Were they helpful? were they a pain in the butt?
Are you speaking of 3.18 or just
no,
in
before
general?
318? Yeah, we're going to talk about before 318.
Gotcha. Yes, I did. Actually, I did it a lot, because there will be some game sessions for me that's all I would do, because it's just relaxing, right? I'm that type of gamer sometimes. I'll load game up, load Star Citizen up, do something real chill for about a cool hour, and then, you know, go do whatever I need to do next. But box missions are pretty cool for that, because especially when you get the ones where you have to pick up 3 at one location and drop them off at different locations, or vice versa. You pick one up from one of 3 different locations and then drop them all off at the same one. So yes, I absolutely participated in that. I get a kick out of it. It's very simple, very, you know, basic, but engaging, I felt still. But where it's going to be something, I think, pretty interesting.
Okay. Abdi, what about you? Did you do box missions, or do you ignore them?
I did box missions. I think it's a good way, like you said, especially if you just want to like get to know a new patch, or get to know the lay of the land when you're new to the game. It's just a good way of just like knowing how to get in your ship, get down to a planet, you know, get into one of the buildings, know where you need to go, get what you need to get, and then get to a new place. And you get to see a lot of other places because of that, that you might not get to see if you're just doing like bounty missions or something like that. So I think that they totally have a place in the verse. Some people can do them forever. I can't.
Okay.
I mean, like I do like trading and like, you know, bringing out my big ship and stuff like that. But after a while, the small boxes kind of get to me. They're just, you know, they're weird, and like getting them into the terminal, you have to be crouching, or else you might throw yourself out of the building or something weird like that. So, yeah. So there's only so much of it I can do, but I think it's important to have in the verse and important for people. And it's great that they have missions and that there's reputation around it now. I think that's really valuable and for keeping the game replayable for people.
Kalrati, I know you've done them, so I'm going to throw a different question at you. There was a time when, in the early days, box missions was considered lucrative. You do a box mission for like 9,000 credits, right? Then all of a sudden, CEG, people started getting the word, oh, well, make some quick money. Then all of a sudden, CIG slashed this sucker, man. They brought that fire sale in and cut them suckers down to like 2,000, 3,000. People went crazy, right? I mean, CIG does that deliberately. They do that so that where they want us to put our emphasis changes, right? Because people were just hanging around doing box missions. So they say, okay, we know how to kill that monster and make y'all go do something else, cut the prices. But CIG is now looking to expand this, right? So what I want to do is I want to go into delivery missions a little bit and go to the next area, okay? And you guys know, and I'm going to let Kalrati talk about this a little bit. You already know what they are. These are missions that start off with a simple point A to point B delivery of a standard parcel box. As you earn reputation with various delivery brokers, missions will increase in difficulty and payout with more complex journeys, timed deliveries, and hazardous cargo. And that's kind of where we are now. It's expanded reputation. Like you said, Abdi, reputation's in there now. You actually start to get better missions as you go along. So you're not limited to that, only 6,000 or 3,000 or, chaining 3 boxes together, but they're all the same price. That's all kind of move. Kalrati, there's some other techniques to this when it comes down to delivering the goods now, where people are starting to understand that not only am I doing delivery missions with these boxes, but I can also start doing trade, right? I can start paying attention to where I'm going and loading up my ship with some other stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Because, for example, with 3.18, you could actually see what terminals buy and sell, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're actually at a particular location and you drop off your cargo box, you can just go to the trade terminal and see, okay, what does it sell or what is it selling? There are some pretty useful tools online that you could also use, and kind of just combine them so that you can actually have your own kind of trading journey, trading map. And I find that really, really cool that it's not just a quote unquote monotonous thing where you're just doing a trade mission or a delivery mission. You can add more onto that to make the experience a whole lot more worth it.
Yeah. Shimpasta.
I should also say that I'm slowly getting back to delivery missions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them because in 3.5 I did 221 consecutively.
Wow. So
delivery box missions can go screw themselves temporarily.
Dedication, man.
Yeah, Shimpasta's got a good comment here. He says CIG is making a distinction between cargo hauling and trading. Is this good, and what's the difference? Now, Shimpasta, this is what I'm going to tell you from my position. I don't know if this is CIG's position, but I'm kind of basing it around what's in the game. I look at trade as being something that I'm doing for my own profit. If I do a mission and I go pick up, like, let's say the mission is, I don't know, whatever it is. I'm doing a trade mission, and okay, let me give you a good example. Let me switch it around. Let's say I'm mining, and I've mined a whole bunch of ore, right? And then I go take that stuff and sell it somewhere or sell it to someone for my profitability. It's my stuff, and I'm selling it for my profitability. I look at that as trade. Now I'm speaking to me now. When it's cargo, it's when I go to a mission that says so-and-so at Hurston needs 20,000 boxes of something moved to ArcCorp. And if you do that, you will get paid. So it's more like freight, like a company, like I'm getting hired to move someone's stuff back and forth. Maybe there's an emergency somewhere where they say these people need medical supplies. Those medical supplies aren't what I'm selling. That's not mine. I don't own them. But what I do get paid for is making that trip. So I kind of look at that like how real world is. You know what I mean? If you run a freight train or whatever, you don't own the stuff that's on the train. You get it where it needs to go. You get paid for taking it there. So that's kind of the distinction that I kind of go with. Now, I don't know if anybody else feels any differently about that, or maybe some other distinctions that you guys might see. Anybody got anything for that, for the difference between trade and cargo?
One thing I would say is for trade is about buying low, selling high, right? So you can pretty much be shopping around different. I look at this the way I play Eve, for example. You can do trading pretty easily in Eve. And so what I would do, they even have tools for it where you could look at what's in demand in this system and where is it being sold the cheapest. So you can sort of go, if you can make that trip in time, you make the decision whether, okay, do I go buy this for this amount and then go, trade it or sell it at that station for a profit. That to me is pretty much still, like you said, Griffin, that's the trade part. Cargo hauling is actually mission based, I would say, just like you said as well, Griffin, where you, for example, reputation will be tied to that because you're doing work for an organization, compared to when trading, that's just you deciding, okay, I want to, profit off of a trade that's lucrative for me, buying low, selling high.
Yeah, that's a good point. That reputation is tied. It would be tied into that. That's a real good point. Some of you guys know they got the trade. What's the trade thing called? The building, the blue circle with the globe.
The TDDs.
The TDD, right? The trade division, right? The trade division. And I don't know if CIT is going to do this, guys, because right now you got those monitors. Sometimes they're near the admin area. Sometimes they're in the TDD. But you also know now that the cargo decks are in, there's a cargo area for freight. And what I am kind of hoping what will happen is that when it's trade related, you go to the TDD. When it's freight and cargo related, you go to the cargo decks. That would be like where you pick up those type of issues. I'm hoping CIG will implement that. Right now, there's nothing in the cargo decks other than picking up some supplies there, clothing and things like that. But hopefully that will help make a distinction as well in the game. But we'll have to see where CIG goes. Good, Abdi.
And I feel like I heard this recently too on one of the SCLs, but they were talking about maybe there being some way for you to rate other people.
Yeah.
And I know that can get kind of sketchy in an MMO because you don't want, just people bullying someone or something like that. But providing some way to say like, oh, you know what, this person is a bona fide trader. They do a good job, and it's player to player, not something that's in the game, like a way that I could rate, like, oh, me and Kalrati just did a trade. We had, or I sold something to him. You can rate like on eBay or something like that. Yeah.
There was some talk at one point about something that would be kind of like almost like Uber, right? Where even if you did give me a negative rating, you're not going to drop me from 5 stars to 0. It would be averaged over time. It may drop us incrementally a little bit or something like that, right? So yeah, hopefully, and they will. They'll come up with something. Yeah. Absolutely, so that we can rate each other. Because like the person who comes out there to rescues you, right? They come out there and do a medical mission. You may want to tell them, hey, this guy's great. Somebody who comes out there and shoots you in the head and take your stuff, you won't be able to say negative, right? Okay. All right. Let's move on past delivery missions here. Let's go to this one, which is salvage. And you might be saying, what does salvage got to do with the cargo refactor? It's got a lot to do with it. It will allow players to reclaim recycled material composite from ships and shipwrecks and collect it in storage containers, either to be used to repair other ships or to be traded. Okay. And we were already kind of seeing this already with the, you mentioned it earlier, Kalrati, the Vulture. We've seen it already happening. People have already started pulling those containers, using their tractor beams, transferring stuff over to other ships already in the game, right? Kalrati, let me go to you first on this one. Any thoughts about salvage and where you could see this kind of going with the cargo refactor?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, first thing I want to say is imagine salvage without the cargo refactor. It would have pretty much been mining.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, if we didn't have the cargo refactor, would the Vulture have had a different design? Because they may not have had an idea of how cargo refactor would have worked at the time of the Prospectus release, if salvaging or hull scraping did come in at the time. So it's nice to see that, with the birth of the cargo refactor, we now know that, okay, maybe they were waiting for something like this to bring hull scraping or salvage tier 0, to this level to give it to us. And where I see it going, especially, is with the whole multi-crew experience. I see that they're really pushing to make this thing more apparent, and hopefully in the future a lot more fun, a lot more player facing, a lot more enjoyable. But even now I can definitely see it brings about a really strong community vibe where people are working together for the good and for the bad, for with regards to piracy and everything. So that's, I guess, in my opinion, the whole attraction to the multi-crew experience. And even if you're not someone to really prefer playing with other people, the experience that you have to interact with these boxes, et cetera, and move them from point A to point B, around salvaging, I think it's something that's really going to shine a lot more in the future.
Yeah, Abdi, I don't know if you've done it yet. I've had a chance to do it. You may have seen videos of it. People operating on a ship. We talked about the Vulture, but the Reclaimer. And Kalrati mentioned about that multiplayer aspect of it. You cannot do, and listen, y'all, okay, in Star Citizen, you can do whatever you want to. I'm talking about if you're sane, you cannot do salvaging on a Reclaimer by yourself, okay? If you're sane, okay? So, how do you see this thing with the cargo? Because, now we're actually, the cargo deck on the Reclaimer means something now. You've got these 2 machines that spit out these boxes. You may have 1 or 2 people down there with their tractor beams using the grids, getting that stuff all set up, right? is there anything else that could happen with salvage in a ship like the Reclaimer? Because we've got several things in there. We've got the drones, we've got the grinding thingy, right? What else do you see happening that could also add to this whole thing of cargo in that ship?
I mean, like with that material, someone said it here, recycled material. It was Citizens VAR. Yeah, using that recycled material. I mean, like that's basically building material, right? So like if you could set up like a chop shop or something inside your inside your Reclaimer or something, where basically like, you know, you're reclaiming wrecks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
People out in the verse need a quick place to stop. They go to like
let me stop you for a second.
Griffin's shop.
Let me stop you for a second. Actually, that idea did come up as a way to trade with people who own the Crucible. That was where it really came up at, was that Crucible will need that type of material when they want to repair, you know, the skins on ships that have been damaged, because they've got to get it from someplace, right? So you, the Reclaimer owner, is actually harvesting this stuff, and now it becomes a dynamic of trade for somebody who owns Crucible, right?
I would love to see that. I mean, like the synergies between the ships, I think, are becoming more and more apparent, and I love that because it gives a reason for an org to have one of this ship and one of that ship instead of just being the org of Carricks, you know, like, which is great, you know, and you know, at some point that'll make sense too, but maybe right now it makes sense. But like having an org where it's an all-around industry-focused org, you got your Reclaimer person, you got your Reclaimer person who doesn't even own the Reclaimer, but their dedicated role in the Reclaimer is to do, you know, like moving the boxes onto the ship to sell or something like that. And then maybe you got someone on the Reclaimer who's you know, the mechanic or something like that, who's spitting the stuff back out onto ships or something. The world's our oyster. I mean, like we can do this. Like we can make these things happen. And honestly, CIG loves to look at us make these things happen, because when they see us do that, you know, you get the racetrack effect, you know, where we make our own games, and then they support us around that by, you know, maybe making it official or providing better tools in some way. So I'm excited to see what happens with that ship. And I still got to take you up on that, getting onto your Reclaimer. I have a Vulture, but I've never been on a Reclaimer still. So at some point I need to get up on there and and see that thing. And then, oh man, one of these years we got to do like a Halloween thing where like, I don't know, someone has like the mask on and we like they're the alien, and then like no one's got guns and the alien's going around killing people. That would be so fun.
We'll have to work it out. DM, when we were doing the Reclaimer and using the cargo grid, one of the things that was cool was that they actually, you know, at first currently when we played the game in 17, there's more of a freestyle of putting boxes down, right? You can kind of put them wherever you want. But now there is, and we're going to talk about the grid a little bit later, but there is a grid there now. And at first I didn't like that because I wanted to have that flexibility of doing stuff. But now that I've done it, I actually like it because it keeps it organized. The place doesn't get crazy, right?
You don't like playing Tetris?
No, man. No, listen, them boxes can get nutty, man. I'm telling you. Especially some people. Listen, I have OCD, dude. I'll come down there screaming in the hole. You get the boxes all crazy and stuff. I'll be down there hollering, "What are you doing?" You know, I just go nuts. So
rearranging.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I'll spend an hour down there putting stuff back straight. DM. One of the things that happened when we were doing this with the cargo, and I was really surprised to see this. You know, a lot of times based on how the game has been so far, people kind of want to take, I don't want to say it's the wrong way, but they want the glory roles, right? They want to be the gunner or they want to be the pilot. But there were people that were actually cool with being down in the cargo deck, setting up stuff on the grids and stuff. I mean, and nobody was complaining like, "Hey, I'm getting tired of moving these boxes. Somebody else needs to come down here." I mean, people were like, "Hey, I want to go down there and move some boxes around." I mean, is this going to change the way as they expand this with cargo? Or, you know, because we were talking about the TDD earlier, right? Will we have people now when it comes down to delivering goods and stuff that you and I are talking and you say, "Griff, I'm in Nick's. And dude, I know you've been looking for copper or to sell your copper you've been holding for the last 3 months. I'm at the TDD right now and it's saying copper's going for blah, 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 blah." You know what I mean? When we start cooperating in a different way, not just in the sense of, well, I know copper's cheap, so, you know, but actually connecting, just like working in that in that hull.
yeah.
It's not like, well, I'm gonna go out and do my own. I'm willing to get on
Yeah.
somebody else's ship and help them out. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think so. And for one big reason, because Star Citizen is such an immersive game, it's not this boring. And it won't be, at least I'm saying it subjectively, of course, but I don't expect it to be anything to be boring. Even those sort of jobs. Like, just like you mentioned, I was participating in the same thing. I was on a reclaimer with someone else when 3.18 first went to wave 1. And people were fighting over that role. Like, I ended up with a mining, not a mining, but a salvaging role because I couldn't get that role. So, it was about a good 4 or 5 of us on the reclaimer. Of course, there's the 2 salvaging heads. And so I ended up being I don't want to say stuck because I enjoyed that role too. But to your point, yes, I think, and maybe because 3.18 is new, but I still think that will be a thing going forward. I really do. And a big part of that, again, is because of how immersive Star Citizen is. So I don't foresee any role, or I don't see CIG making any role super monotonous or super boring. I think everything will have its appeal and a certain player type that it appeals to. I really believe that.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
And they're going to have to make it, one of the balances I think is going to be difficult with this whole cargo versus trading thing is going to be what's going to motivate me to do cargo where I'm working for someone else and the numbers I get from that versus when I'm doing my own trade. Now don't get me wrong. In order to do that trade, I also have to acquire those items. So I've got to do the mining. I've got to do all that legwork ahead of time to get those items to sell them.
Yeah.
Where if you've done all that already, you just hired me to take it from here to there.
Exactly.
And I minimize the time factor. Now, maybe also, though, what offsets it is the risk factor of moving that cargo as well, right? Because maybe you don't want to take on the risk, but you say, I'll hire Griff with his whole C, because for me to do it with my Andromeda is not going to function, right? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why cargo could develop into a very iterative aspect beyond the technical sides of this thing, right? It could really force certain types of gameplay with players. I do appreciate what Abdi said in Kalrati when he said, we saw players now taking these ships. Kalrati mentioned the C2 with the vultures. Abdi, you mentioned it. How do you start seeing these other ships now working together in the game and not just being solo efforts, but there's a purpose. Maybe, you just feel there's a purpose now to have a C2, besides, putting medical supplies on it from a kiosk, right? I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there. Okay. All right, y'all, we're going to move on past salvage. We beat that horse to death. Let's go into talking about trading. I want to talk about the new trade interface because people need to know that this has changed too. And I really dig this new one that they've got, plus the one that they've done for commodities. Both of them are nice. But what's really cool is on the left side of the screen, there's like a grid that they've come up with what you can put in your ship. DM, did you get a chance to monkey around with that or look at it on the kiosk with trade? Okay. Any thoughts?
I did. I think you muted. Oh, what did you say?
I said, no, so you got any thoughts? I said, you got any thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I love the new interface. I think it's very intuitive. It's part of that new building blocks technology. And yes, when I did the trade with the one gentleman, I was able to immediately see, on the left-hand side, how much was actually on my hull A. Of course, you can physically see it too, but it's nice to get that visual representation in the display as well. Side note, I really can't wait till we can see the same sort of thing inside of our ships on the panels. That'd be great. That'd be real great. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a great representation, but it also does another thing, especially with that one bug in the game right now where you get multiple of the same ship. Now you know which one, to pick. But but yeah, I think it's really intuitive. I even like the right hand side where you get to see the demand for the individual shops, depending on what they buy versus what they hold in their I guess the inventory. Yeah. So I really like it. I think it's a great step in the right direction. Can't wait to see it expanded into the ships and everything, because I think that's coming up soon too.
Yeah. Abdi, what about you? You've been monkeying around with this at all with the trade unit? Have you seen the new interface at all yet?
I've seen the new interface, but I haven't monkeyed around with it enough. Okay. So I work in front-end dev, and UI UX is something that I really am passionate about, making things easier for people, and making it a better experience so that they're able to do what they need to do. The fun thing with seeing this, I feel like in its like iterative version, I feel like we saw a version of this without the the nice layout and the nice design around it.
Yeah.
But we saw what they wanted to accomplish, and it's cool to see how far it's come.
Yeah.
I think that it's great. I love being able to intuitively see what we have and where we have it. I think that's always helpful, and the more that we can get tools like this in the game, the better it'll be for everyone.
Okay. Kalrati, any thoughts about the trade interface, the new one?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with the sentiments with Abdi and DM, because one of the things that I've always been looking forward to is having something like this on the move. I don't have to, really get an idea of, what every store buys or sells, but at least, the stores that I have been to, it'll be nice to actually, register that location and see, if I'm ever going back to that location, to know, all right, this buys and sells this particular item, so that I'll be able to plan ahead, or at least know, it buys and sells this amount at this amount of alpha UEC or UEC. So I think, this is it's definitely a step in the right direction. And I'm definitely looking forward to it being portable and, either to the ship or to the mobiGlas, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question.
mobiGlas tools getting fleshed out would be so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who wants to answer this can. We've got a lot of tools that are external tools that we use for trading and items in the game. Do you think CIG is good? Do you think it'll get to a point where, and I don't want to say those things will be eliminated. My question is, do you think CIG will put the type of tools in there where we won't rely on those things, that we actually will rely on the mobiGlas, Spectrum, live notifications, to let us know what's being bought, what's being sold? Because I am curious about, even if websites and stuff have this stuff running, how timely will they be? How current will they be? Right. Comparison to maybe what you're getting in game. Is it better to get that stuff in real time in game, or do you think they'll still allow it to be third party stuff outside of the game that can keep players aware of what's going on, especially in the areas of trade? Anybody got any thoughts on that?
I think
I feel like it just. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. You're the guest.
I think they need to. I think it's a must for the type of game it is. Like, you should not have to alt tab at any point while playing Star Citizen. I don't think you should. And this is not to take away from the work, the great work that the community does with these tools. There's some excellent stuff out there. But I think for the type of game that Star Citizen is, they have to make it diegetic. They have to put all that in the game, or some way to get to that information reliably inside of the game. That speaks to the reason why people are making those third-party things in the first place, because they're not in the game, because they're not. There's no easy way to do that. But I play Destiny 2. If you play Destiny 2, Destiny Item Manager (DIM) is like huge, and this next patch, or the next season that they're doing, a lot of the things that Destiny Item Manager does will be kind of baked into the game, which some people are happy about, some people aren't. But the idea is that these people worked so hard to make these things out of the game, but mostly because that it just wasn't supported. But once the devs see that it can be something that should, or it is something that should be inside the game, just like Digital Master was saying, it's so important to have it in there, because it's like when you're watching a movie. I mean, I come from a film background, so like anything that breaks you out of the movie is can be seen as, if it's not intentional, can be seen as a bad thing, because now you're not immersed anymore. You're not spending your time in there. You're distracted. You could go on Twitter now, and then you're not spending your time in the game. You're spending your time on Twitter because you're in a web interface to look at a third-party app. So we'll see what like. I think it's just going to be what I was going to say before, is I think that this is just going to be what they can spend resources on at CIG. The web stuff, I think they have some resources more and more resources going into the web stuff, because the community hub seemed like that got redone recently. But when it comes to the API and stuff like that, I don't know. There's a lot of things that people have been waiting on for a long time when it comes to the website. And I don't know when that's going to come, and I don't know how high a priority it is.
Yeah. I mean, some of you may have seen this. If you guys have gone to the TDDs recently, they used to have these real funky looking placeholders there. And now they've started putting some stuff in there. They're actually putting in the certain types of minerals and all the ores and all this other stuff in there. And someone mentioned it in the chat, because I am mentioning is that is going to be the source of information. Those are going to be real time, in time. The question is, how far does it expand? You know, is it going to be limited to having to be at a TDD to see that information? Or will that information be provided? Like right now, we get the little blurbs every once in a while telling us what commodities are out. But will there be some other forms that CIG will create that'll keep us as players up to date? And to your point, Abdi, I did like what you said about that breaking of immersion. We know that word is the magic word for Chris Roberts, and he tries to do as much as he can to keep us immersed in the game. And even though we do get used to doing it, it does break us a little bit when we have to tab and hit and go look and scroll with a mouse and try to find where this stuff is, right? If it's in game, obviously it keeps us in the game. And I think that that is a good thing too. Kalrati, you got anything before we move on?
Yeah, I remember when I was playing the Discovery Freelancer mod, but even Freelancer, one of the things that, unfortunately, because of the the track of Freelancer that they weren't able to put in was the dynamic economy. Tony Z, he was also working on something like that, but unfortunately they couldn't put it in. And as a result, the static economy of that brought about the birth of something called the Freelancer Companion, which is similar to what we see with SE Trade Tools, etc. So even though I think SE Trade Tools and all of these other web-based apps, they'll most likely in some way remain, whether or not they're able to afford to maintain the frequency of a dynamic economy or updating the goods and services and their prices on their websites. When the dynamic economy comes online in the game, by pulling that information, time and time again at such a fast rate, that's another question. Especially as the game expands physically and we have a lot more stations, etc.
Yeah.
But even so, I think players are still going to be able to enjoy, or still may prefer to stay in the game once CIG offers those tools and services within the game.
Yeah. Okay.
And there might be like a place for it too. Like, let's say you're at work and you're like, you know what? I know I have like 3 hours tonight, and I just need to check and see, like, when I get online, what am I going to be trading?
Yeah, you don't want to bring up Star Citizen at work.
I mean, like,
I've been loaded on your computer.
No one's going to do that. What I'm saying is that they're going to go onto SE Tools. Or
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't want to have Star Citizen loaded on your working computer to look at your stuff, right?
First of all, your computer's going to be the loudest computer on the floor. Just running that thing. Yeah. But like, yeah, so like maybe people, I think, some kind of third-party tool will always be helpful for people who don't want to have to be in the game, and maybe CIG doesn't want to have to, make a browser-based, like economy tool or something like that. But so like that's not, I just don't want anyone to think that Soul Citizens is dunking on those things.
Yeah, not at all.
They're always there's always going to be a place for them.
Always,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Let's talk about the cargo grids a little bit. I'm going to kind of connect this one with the next one, guys, so you know where I'm going with this. The cargo grids, containers are placed in a locking grid of sorts, which marks out floor to ceiling where cargo can be stored on board a ship. And as I mentioned before, as you guys know, if you were carrying a 1/8 SCU box previously in your hand, you could do like click on place and you could sit it down wherever you wanted to, almost with whatever orientation you wanted. It wasn't locked into place. Now we kind of have like a snap that happens when you put it in. You get a little ghost image of where it would go, you release, and your box goes there nice and neat and to the point. We talked about it a little bit with the reclaimer that we saw. We know it's in the game. What I want to talk about is this, though, because this is a different thing that I didn't know about and I didn't see. Maybe y'all saw CIG print something about it. I didn't, okay? It was this, the Hull C. Now, I didn't know that you can walk up to somebody's Hull C and snatch them boxes off that grid now.
Yes, sir.
Did not know that. It ain't happened to me, but when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. So this thing with the grid, let's talk about how this has expanded now, not just the fact of, taking your tractor beam and putting something down, but now there is this dynamic of removing something. Now, tier 0, let's go with that first off. We're tier 0. And the question I'm wondering is, will CIG leave it that way? Let me use an example of what I mean. On this particular ship, Those are 1 SCU boxes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
CIG has shown us a new tractor beam that's more like a rifle, much bigger, that can be used. And my assumption is that the multi-tool that we have in our hand, if it's a bigger box, a 4 SCU, 8 SCU, 16 SCU, obviously a multi-tool is not going to do that. So my question is, will we start seeing that those multi-tools, as they go up to the point of where there's even like a tractor beam on a ship, like on the Taurus or on the Caterpillar, will it have to be a tool that accommodates that type of size of box? Does that make sense? Because we know these boxes had to be detachable now, because when there's soft death, and we'll talk about soft death later, they detach from the tuna. But the fact that players now could come up to your ship while you're sitting inside doing something and start yanking these boxes off. What do you guys think about that in relation to piracy, whatever you want to call it? And let me go with the DM first on this one.
I think there needs to be at least another layer to be able to achieve that, because that, to me, it's a little too simple.
Okay.
I think the ship should be disabled first, or something to that effect, before you can just, roll up on someone's hull and just start plucking
Let
boxes.
me ask you a question. This came up with salvaging, right? And it was salvaging was like, if your shields are up, you cannot be salvaged.
Right.
So can there maybe be something like that says in place, that if you keep your shields up, you know what I mean? You can't snatch it off, but if they if they bang on you enough to get your shields down, then maybe it could, maybe something like that is what you mean, like some type of
That's
buffer.
what I mean. Exactly. Some additional layer there that requires a bit more work for a pirate to achieve that, because that's super simple right now. Super simple.
Because it could be like that Moby-Glass thing, where like you release access to a certain person, and now they have the ability to get like cargo grid A through B or something like that. Maybe it's a Moby-Glass app that, kind of like, everybody wants to have a Moby-Glass app that allows you to like unlock and lock your ship or open the doors or something like that remotely. Maybe it's tied to something like that.
I like that, Abdi, because one of you guys mentioned, I think it was DM, one of you guys mentioned about once our MFDs are actually be able to use. I mean, imagine, okay, some ships actually have like an area for, like in Starfarer, you've got a panel up on that second level to handle your inventory, right? It would be so cool to be able to take my mouse and where I see those boxes at, those grids, be able to click on them. And when I click on them, they release. They could actually be picked up and taken out of my ship at that point. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And that way,
like
instead
that,
of me just unlocking everything, I can just click on the ones that need to be. If you tell me you're going to buy 8 of them, I click on 8 of them, you can pick them up and take them out. I would love to see something like that happen in the game. Kalrati, what do you think about this whole thing with the releasing of these boxes and the cargo grid and the hull?
Yeah, I think things like these are also going to be tied to the resource management system, because, for example, we see relays, we see how the power plants and all those things are going to be tied to how they interact with the power. So being able to actually, for example, as a pirate, I say pirate because that's definitely what I'm going to doing in 3.18 live. If you were to disable it, right? Imagine like with resource management, you can actually disable that, and we could actually tractor that cargo off of someone's grid. But without that and resource management or whatever component being enabled, still you can't necessarily do that as easily, even if the shield is down. So I can definitely see something like that occurring, for example, and that may not necessarily need to, for example, and that's something that we're going to move on to very soon in the discussion. You may not need to put someone in a state of soft death to be able to take the cargo away. You can possibly disable that component if resource management has that component tied to it. Yeah. And as a result, you can disable the cargo grid. That way, you don't have to go to the trouble of disabling or putting that ship into soft death and take that cargo away. So,
I'm trying to deal with this physics and the math, the science of this too, because, if those grids, if those boxes are being held up magnetically, I'm assuming magnetically, then we have to figure out a way to disable what's keeping it on. If the ship is running with its power, should a person be able to go up there with a multi-tool and pull the box off? Maybe there has to be, like you were mentioning, Kalrati, maybe there has to be something of disabling a relay. Maybe it is external. Maybe it's an external relay, right? Some form of hacking that you go outside the ship and there's a panel out there. And if you get in there and hack that panel, you cut the power off for that particular grid, not the whole thing, but like how you see how the whole is, maybe that those top 2 rows, maybe that gets loose and those are now free to be removed. I would love that you have to work for it. You know what I mean? It can happen, but you have to work for it. I also want them to put a freaking loop.
I mean, like
I want them to
Like,
put a
they're
low
talking
jack
about
in too, by
giving
the way,
org-
Abdi. Have them to put a low jack in too, so that when you're in the shop, your buzzer rings and tells you somebody's out there messing with your ship. I'm
Yep.
just kidding. Go ahead, Abdi. What are you gonna say?
Well, I just mean like I can't remember where I heard this, if it was an SCL or something like that. But someone, oh, you know what? It was probably a Space Tomato.
Don't be
video or
quoting
something
Space Tomato on this show. No, I'm just kidding.
That's all right. I'm just kidding.
No, Space
So,
Tomato's
like,
our
no,
boy.
it-
Go ahead. I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
I know. But like they were talking about assigning org rules. So let's say like when you are in your org, you know, whether it be in game or Spectrum or something, you can say when this person's on my ship, they are the cargo master or something like that. So that they have exclusive control of saying this is when this is unlocked or something like that. So like let's say, I don't know, like there's some kind of mission and it's a derelict ship. You have to go find the cargo master's dead body or whatever, get his little codec or something, load it into your Moby glass, and then all of a sudden you have access to everything the cargo master had access to. Or if it's missiles, like, you know, go find the person who was assigned that in their org or something. I just feel like there could be so many like mission and org and like ways of tying all this kind of stuff together. So I'm excited to see the future of it.
Okay. All right. Well, for right now, y'all, feel free to go out there and snatch somebody's boxes off their hull. Hey, that's what we'll tell you to do for right now.
Definitely will do that.
Yeah, feel free to do that. Okay.
I'm not gonna want to see Kalrati in 318. I want to be like, he's online. All right, I'm gonna go play something else.
Yeah, I'm gonna be scanning through the list of players now.
There you go.
Which is alphabetical according to Dig That.
Right.
So
Right.
All right. Let's talk about soft death a little bit. This was a new feature that's been implemented that people caught folks off guard a little bit. Nobody was expecting this to come up as a part of the Cargo Refactor. But as you guys know, CIG has expanded cargo boxes beyond the 1/8 inch SCU, 1/8 SCU box to the full SCU boxes. And they gave us the whole thing about the math in this video saying, yeah, when we blew that ship up, there were 5,000 boxes out there. So we had to go from 1/8 to 1 SCU to make it so that there's only like 1,000 or whatever the number is. Okay. Let's talk about this a little bit. Kalrati, I'll start with you this time on this one. How do you feel about soft death? You know, it's got some bugs in it. It's got some things that still need to be worked out, physics in relation to the ships when they crash and things of that nature. But you know what? Before we do that, before you talk, because I want to give you something to work with. Let's talk about what soft death is, because some people may not know all the features. They may have just seen videos, but don't know all the features that are there, okay? With soft death, vehicles can now enter soft death state before a regular death state. Soft death trigger favors precise damage over blasting major damage. In a soft death, the vehicle is left intact and the crew and pilot are left alive. Seats can be exited, but not re-entered. Cargo is fully left intact. Additional damage to the vehicle will cause a critical death that will kill the crew and break the ship apart. Mission completions related to kills will trigger on soft death. Doors also unlock on soft death. Additional damage after a soft death will trigger a critical death that will kill the crew and destroy a portion of the cargo. And for now, soft death will kill the crew in an AI vehicle. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Go ahead, Kalrati. Give us some ideas. What your feelings about soft death?
Yeah, it was very surprising that they brought it online, but it was not upsetting at all, but rather the complete opposite. I think at first there was a few tweaks that they had to make, because for some smaller ships especially, even if you were to fire using small size weapons, it would have a really small gap between soft death and permanent and actual death, you know. But I definitely think it's a really nice stopgap until we get the ability to realistically disable a ship and we have physicalized components in those things. And it creates another opportunity for players to have a lot more experiences, either on the pirate side, either on the trader or not so pirate side, when actually experiencing this whole patch and a lot more activity in the game. So I definitely welcome it, and that's something that I've been and will be using a lot more in live. And yeah, even for example, if I'm a cargo hauler or a trader or so, I'm someone who likes to put myself in danger. So being able to put myself at a risk of experiencing soft death if I don't comply with a pirate or a criminal or so, just to experience that feeling of, okay, I still have a chance to live or still have a chance to defend myself in FPS way, and not only have the space-based or space-flight experience. I think it's a really great change. I remember I was seeing a video, a good bit of people, but the last one I saw was Avenger 1, when he was doing the cops versus criminals thing, and he had this really old theme song. But it was where he was stopping people, stopping criminals, and he actually entered their ships after. So it was really nice to bring and combine that dynamic between the spaceflight experience and the FPS experience, and that's what I think Soft Death is definitely promoting.
Abdi, anything on Soft Death?
If you wanted to role play the beginning of A New Hope, I think you can do that now. You're gonna have all those people lined up at the doors as they open, and then Darth Vader's gonna board your ship, and you're gonna have to take him out. I think it's super cool. I know I say that word way too much, and I'm like self-conscious about it now. But like, yeah, I think it's a good first step. I'm really glad that they brought it in now, because I think the community needs to start getting used to this stuff.
Yes.
We've been coddled, I guess, for a little bit, and we backspace, and we blow up our ships anytime like a pirate comes around or something like that. Not I don't, but I'm just saying, like, I think we are getting one step closer to having Chris's idea of there being consequence to dying, or consequence to completely destroying a ship, or actually, things that would make you not want to completely blow up a ship, which was never the case before. So I'm extremely excited to see that this is the first step, that we're getting it now, and where we go from here.
Yeah. Okay. DM.
Yeah, I love it, actually. Pretty much right in line with what everyone else is saying. One thing Kalrati mentioned that I really can't wait for. First of all, this is the stopgap. This is not even really the final iteration of it. Once we get the resource management in, it's going to take a huge leap even further, because now you introduce us lawful players, Kalrati, being able to being able to repair that ship, right? Let's say it gets damaged, but let's say pirates just wanted your your cargo, so they got your cargo and they left, but you obviously probably still want your ship. At that point, probably don't want to pay the premium for claiming it. So introducing a way to get it back up and running after it has hit that soft death state, that to me, that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. Like one of my ships suffered soft death, and it was against an AI, and it was a bug, by the way. I'm not that terrible at the game. But I think I was at the new rec site, and just thinking about the next steps of what I'll be able to do once the game starts to get to that point was really exciting. Like at that point, of course, soft death, there's nothing else you could do for it, but just imagine being able to repair it, right? And then, limping back to a station. I just really look forward to that. But soft death really starts that conversation and that experience really to start opening your mind, like Abdi was saying, to what soon to come. And it's exciting.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. All right, gang, we're going to do a little bit of a leap here. We've talked about what's currently in the PTU in 3.18. But now we want to talk about, and this is going to be a little bit of the theory crafting side of things. We're going to start talking about where we see this going. What direction do we think CISG is going to go with, particularly with things that they've already kind of showed us. So first off, let's talk about mining, because I think, Kalrati, you mentioned earlier about if we didn't have PES and this Cargo Refactor, salvaging would be just like mining, right? Because right now there's no hard materials, there's no cargo per se when we do mining. Where do you see this going now? And this is in light of ships like the Odyssey coming in, some other stuff, right? Are we going to finally get those saddlebags working? What do you think in relation to mining?
I hope so. I really do hope so. And in fact, I remember a few monthly reports a few monthly reports ago. I think it was the October monthly report where they had some ideas with regards to the multi-crew experience with mining. I don't know if it has anything to do with the Cargo Refactor. They didn't actually explicitly say anything. But with the Odyssey and a whole other ships with regards to mining, I think that they're definitely going to be able to visually see what they can do now, as opposed to theory crafting, even on their end, because they have the tech, so they can actually put it in, physicalize it, and actually see, okay, this is the physical possibility, or visually see it of what can and can't be done. So who knows? Maybe they may strengthen the multi-crew experience. Maybe they may do a whole bunch of different things. Even, for example, we have the ability to utilize the materials after we mine and use it to craft other things. So who knows, that may also encourage the advancement of other ideas. Like, for example, we can use blueprints to create things using our mining vessels, using the Odyssey. So who knows? The skies, or even stars, are the limit. And I'm very, very curious to see what they do next. Because even for the tractor beams, I'm just going to plug this really quickly in here. That, who knows, they may encourage the introduction of the batteries, because we haven't used the batteries for the multi-tool, the tractor beam at all. So we may see the uses of that, and by extension, the advantages of using a larger multi-tool to move one SU, 4 SU, etc., as opposed to relying on a smaller multi-tool to do all of that. So yeah,
we've gotten used to a lot of things, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Infinite battery.
Yeah, Abdi, anything about mining that you see with this Cargo Refactor, or just any thoughts you have?
I mean, I don't think we're super close to being able to get those saddlebags working, but once we do, it's going to be the same thing. Just like everyone's been saying, like we're gonna be able to have more emergent gameplay where we release one of the saddlebags to someone else for them to refine. The refinery person has the little box that they made once it's refined, and they can give that to someone with trading capabilities, someone with cargo, and then we're going to get more of that systemic gameplay, that the synergy between the ships, and I think that's a very exciting thing. I love mining, so I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see that fleshed out because it's one of our most fleshed out things right now. So just seeing it kind of expand even more would be cool.
Yeah. DM, let me hit you with both mining and the next one, which is cargo decks, because to me, those become hand in hand. Right? I'm out mining, I'm pulling all this material. Right now, the most I can do is take it to the refinery. I have to refine everything. I can't separate it, right? I can't store some stuff, keep some stuff raw. Either I have to sell it raw or I have to sell it when it's been cooked, right? So cargo decks got implemented a little while back, but they're just basically cool places to go in and listen to somebody talk over a loudspeaker. Do you think that as part of the Cargo Refactor, that this may be the next area that they open up, so that now when I mine, I can actually store some of my stuff in some of these containers, and then when it's time for me to sell it somewhere, when trading and economy kicks in? Is that where we're going now with that, with mining and resources?
I think so. And I think, again, I love to brainstorm and think about stuff like that. But where it's going, you have the cargo decks, you have the hangars that are coming, and then you have homesteads that's coming. So you start to imagine, eventually we're going to get to the point where, I think someone else has mentioned, I think Abdi, you might have said something about this too, but the synergy, and you start to connect different gameplay loops as well. But one thing that I really love to think about is the aura gameplay, where yes, you're just going out getting resources, don't even have a go yet for those resources, but you're just going to stockpile, right? So you have these big mining operations running, where you got the Odyssey. It's not the Odyssey. What's the refinery ship?
Orion. Or the refinery?
Orion. Well, the Orion, but there's another one too that does
the new one, smaller one that I have, and I can't remember.
The Expanse.
Yeah. The Expanse. That's it. So you got that one out there. You got the Prospector, whatever, or the moles, out there just working together, collecting all these resources. And then eventually, as an organization, as more things come online, now you're building homesteads or all these other different things you want to do. It's just so exciting. But yes, to your question, I really think they're going to start to flesh out the cargo decks where you start to be able to store your own personal stuff. So it does become more than just, hey, I'm going to go out there and mine some stuff and then just to sell it. But no, maybe I want to hold it. Maybe the value will go up in another month or so, and then I can go sell it at that point, or I can just simply use it to build a ABC or what have you. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that's what they will do personally.
Okay. Logistics on this, Kalrati, when it comes to this whole thing with delivering stuff and cargo. I mean, as we get systems, right? If I've been mining let's say I'm mining in the Belt and Stanton, right? The Aaron's Halo, I've been mining there. What's going to be the logistics of that, as far as where I'm storing all this stuff at, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's going to be stuff that's going to be in demand in Stanton, but there's going to be some stuff that's in demand in Nix, right? How does this come out into gameplay for players now when it comes to moving this stuff around? Because to Digital DM's point, if you've been mining, or Abdi, and you're building all this stuff up over time, you got to move that stuff, right? It can become a logistical nightmare if you've got tons and tons, thousands of tons of material. So any thoughts about that with the cargo decks, how they may be? I mean, what could they do? I mean, are we just going to be able to use them for free? You're going to charge us a fee to use them? Who unloads them? Us, NPCs, players? What are your thoughts about the cargo decks?
I hope for the larger ships, it's definitely NPCs, because I ain't moving 32 SCU by myself, especially if they're small inside in SCU. I ain't doing that all the time.
And I'm not going to help you if you're going to be pirating.
Hey, we could just fly together, and then I could just say, okay, I forgot to go get that, and then all of a sudden the pirate just shows up. I'm like, oh wow, Abdi, you got into this? I did not know that this was gonna happen. And I just share the alpha you see with the guy, right? But anyway, I think that especially with regard to the logistics, it's definitely going to be a nightmare if you're dealing with a whole bunch of goods, especially if you think, okay, you move all of your goods from point A to point B, and then you realize, okay, it should have been a better idea to keep it at point A, because to carry it to this other system, it's a lot farther from, if you were to keep it at point B now. So it's definitely going to introduce possibly greater cooperation, especially in organizations, because there may be somebody who may actually enjoy keeping, just being in charge of these logistics. It'll be very difficult for somebody to do all these things at the same time, because yes, it will be, possible to keep these things in a persistent hangar or so, and maybe the locations will keep it for free. Who knows? I guess we'll see what CIG does with regards to that.
Yeah.
I don't think it may be all that expensive, but once again, it will depend on things like location.
Well, I'm not trying to be funny. When you use when you do the money changer right now, they take a cut off that sucker. They do. They do. When you transfer money to the ATM, the ATM takes a fee off that bad fella. I wouldn't be surprised if they charge you for putting that stuff up in there. I can tell you, it ain't gonna be for free. I guarantee you.
I see what you mean with that. Especially since they actually charge the the NPCs charge you to just put the cargo from the actual grid itself onto the ship, so they're gonna be free for anything, to be honest.
I mean, Griffin, even USPS even asks for money, man.
That's
none of this stuff is free. It's the UPS store. It's not even USPS. This is one level above that.
I know. That's so true. That's
so true. Man, it's gonna be something. Let
me bounce back a little bit here to tractor beams. I don't know if you guys have connected the dots. Does anybody remember what the next ship was the CIG was working on that was in gray box, white box?
SRV?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To DM's point earlier about reclaiming and salvaging your ships. Why would the SRV be something that they're working on now? So it's a question. Do you guys think that that's going to be, since we've got soft death, that now we'll be able to pick up your beat up Connie that's on a moon surface and tracker that sucker up and bring it to a station, and if you get it on the deck or the platform temporarily until the crucible's in or something like that, maybe you can get it repaired? You guys think there's a possibility?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if they wanted to encourage that, And I'm not saying that this is something that I want to have right away, because like I said, we've been coddled for a long time. But I'm saying they could extend the timer on claiming a ship, and then it gives you a whole lot of reason to like hire out an SRV, bring your ship someplace, get it fixed up on Griffin's reclaimer, chop shop or whatever, and then get back out there in the verse till you can get somewhere and get it fixed up right. So, I'm excited for it. I think it's a good thing. I think we got to get ready for it. But it's the tractor beam is going to be so useful for so many things, not just broken ships, but like you said, organizing freight stuff or bringing even like rocks, like minerals that you want to mine. If you want to bring those around and get them into a place where a bunch of people can group mine them or something like that. The SRV is going to be huge. And then not just the SRV, but like what one of the Connies has a tractor beam on it too, right?
The Taurus does.
Yep.
And
so then and then there's probably going to be the tractor beam on the Vulture too, to bring stuff into the middle of that, right?
This is what you've got right now with tractor beams we know of. The Caterpillar has a tractor beam for moving cargo.
Right.
The Taurus has a tractor beam for moving cargo. The SRV has a tractor beam for moving cargo. The raft has a tractor. Now I think the
Cuddy
raft.
Black has
no, maybe the raft doesn't.
It.
Cuddy Blacks, right? The Cuddies have a tractor beam on them. The
300.
No. Well, the 315 has one. 315 has a tractor beam on it. But there's something else. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The doggone Odyssey has a tractor beam on it to move the cargoes. So reason why I'm saying is you look at what ships they've been talking about and bringing, and this technology of how do we start moving because the cargoes and stuff is essential to the economy. So we've got to be able, if they're going to start physicalizing this stuff, obviously then we've got to start getting that rifle-sized tractor beam. We've got to get the tractor beam on the Taurus going, and the SRV for reclaiming salvage, right? Because I think CIG, I don't know if it was CIG who said this or whether somebody was theory crafting this, but it was about like when your ship gets damaged, Abdi, that you were talking about, will you as the owner have an option of abandonment or reclaiming? And reclaiming just says, hey, I need a little bit of time. I'm getting with my boys or my girls or whoever, and I want to go out there and get the hull of my ship, versus the situation that says, I'm going to declare it as abandoned for insurance purposes. And means it's also completely salvageable, because I've always wrestled with this idea of how do you, if your ship gets damaged, if you've lost power, there's no shields on it, the clock is ticking for your ship, somebody not going out there and stripping your ship down. I'm curious how that's going to go, but we can talk about that on another salvage show. Let's go to the Argo Raft. That ship was sold 32 SCU cargo boxes, I think 3 of them. What do you guys think? Any gameplay with that? Do you think they'll just make it where NPCs are doing stuff, or do you think they'll give it to where the players are helping deliver goods for folks?
Doesn't that have a tractor beam as well?
I don't think so. I think it's just a crane,
It's
right?
just a crane.
It's the crane.
Yeah, it just has
What's
a
the
crane.
little operator seat? Is that the
It's
crane
just the
operation
crane,
seat?
yeah, for where the boxes, the 3 boxes underneath it. I'm really curious to see how you guys see this as far as delivery, because is this going to be the ship that goes from orbital down to a base? You know what I mean? For the sake of fuel,
the whole seas, yeah,
for the sake of fuel and everything else. Is that going to be the means that we're going to be doing that?
Yeah, you're gonna. I think. I mean, like, you're gonna see the rise of the cargo master. Like the ship master, the inventory person, who's going to be, their role is just making sure people have what they need and have it in the right amount and get it in the right spot. So I think you're going to see a lot of people who are going to be at Lorville or someplace like that. Just all they're going to be doing is going between Lorville and Everest Harbor or something like that. That's going to be what their ships do. And I mean, you look at people like Jack Axton. I'm sorry, I'm name dropping people just because they're really fun to watch on YouTube. Yeah. But like, you're gonna see people who like just love doing like cargo, cargo, and like to you that might be like boring as hell, but like to someone like that, that's gonna be their bread and butter for the game. So I'm excited to see what kind of emergent gameplay comes out of that, because it's not just gonna be going up and back between Lorville and Everest Harbor. There's gonna be pirates. There's gonna be other places where it's more lucrative to do that because of Quanta. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Especially, and I wanted to, give a compliment to the potential of these smaller ships like the Cargo Raft and ships similar in size or even smaller, because of the birth of physicalized cargo and having to move cargo from one point to another. You may see how effective these smaller cargo ships may be, especially within a single system. Maybe it may be more worth it to go with a smaller ship, let's say Nine Tails. Right, and eventually where we have to possibly move cargo or use NPCs to move it from one point to another into your ship. It may be faster to actually, take a small amount of cargo, go from Microtech to the destination, and then go back, so that you can ensure that you at least sell something, as opposed to relying on an NPC and you don't have enough players to help you out to move a whole bunch of cargo in one go, right, manually, and go to that destination. So at least, you'll ensure that, these smaller ships like the Cargo Raft and et cetera, will ensure that, you can at least sell something in a physicalized sense.
That's such a good point, because like you're gonna get people that, like, let's say like the planet density is like it's too hard to get out of Atmo or something like that. You could use the SRV, or you could just have a smaller ship that's able to get off the ground or something like that.
Yep.
And those smaller ships are gonna be advantageous for that, making faster runs. That's such a good point.
Shady Phase said that the Argo Raft does have both the crane and tractor beam on it. So
it does.
That's
I heard about that. I just couldn't confirm it.
I couldn't either. I couldn't remember. I see, like you said, this raft as being definitely the shuttle from orbital down to planets very easily. I am, 32, was it 32? 332? Is it 16? 32 SCU boxes, right, on that one?
Yeah.
So
each one is 32, I think.
So it's 3 of them. So it's 100 SCU. That's a pretty decent amount of material.
96 total.
96, yes.
I remember that being the stat line.
Yes, I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in the game for delivery. I definitely could see it being useful when you get NPC missions where something just needs to be delivered. Abdi, to your point, there are going to be certain situations where weather may dictate the type of ship that you can do delivery in, or speed and efficiency, right? Being able to get somewhere quickly and fast. Is it worth taking the C2 down? Really? Is it really worth the possibility of losing the C2 versus losing your raft? It'll be all types of logistical things that players are going to have to work through. But all these pieces that we're seeing, mining, the cargo decks, tractor beams, Argo Raft, and I'm sure there's some other stuff that we could talk about too. We can kind of see these going into tier 1 and tier 2. The mule for delivery.
I used one today.
We didn't think about that for delivery.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that little guy.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing. Somebody, I think it was Gomob. Gomob said that he wished they had designed the mule so that it was also designed like a flatbed where you could put stuff on the back of it, which actually was a very cool idea. Now we know they're not done with vehicles yet, and the mule is small. It's but I do hope that we see some type of expansion, because if once they start bringing in things like dynamic weather and other factors that may determine that flying into a location is just too dangerous, it's not but we can put it on a vehicle and get it out of here. I'm really curious to see where they're going to go with that, with delivery of missions over time, because I know they talked about roadways. There's a lot of stuff they talked about, and why we'll have those things in the game.
Another thing that I was thinking about, because Top Peppy, I think, mentioned something this past SCL, but I think I mentioned a little bit earlier too, but the frozen cargo, or different types of cargo, where now you have to ask yourself, because I think every cargo ship would be able to transport that, but you're on a timer. But that timer can differ depending on the type of ship you're in. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head, so you guys have to help me out here, but I think the 400i has temperature controlled spaces. I don't know if it's a cargo grid though.
But it's not.
It's not a cargo grid, but
it's not a cargo grid.
It's just for the components. It's for the components.
But if you're
do you think they're going to do something like that?
Yeah. Or you vent your cargo hold, so that it's subject to the coldest space or something like that.
Right. You getting all fancy,
just so you get a little bit more time or something, because you're like, oh my god, I just ran into a Kalrati, and now that delayed me a little.
He's really got it out for you, Kalrati. He has really got it out for you this week, man.
He's being careful. I don't give him wrong.
Yeah, I tell you, he's got it out for you. No, it's a good point though. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, like those cooling air. Maybe it is a box of something that's volatile. You got to keep it in a cool area. Improvise, right? You could put it in that little area where the components are. Maybe you can't store a lot of stuff there, but you could put something there. It'd be kind of cool or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, listen, gang, we have hit everything. These guys are just so smart. They covered all the subjects today and answered all my questions very well. And you guys in chat also did a wonderful job too. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff here about what's coming up with delivering the goods. If you guys have not been in PTU yet, hopefully, I'm thinking, well, I could be wrong. I'm hoping next week it'll go to everybody PTU. I'm hoping.
I didn't guess anymore.
Very stable.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm not
I know.
guessing anymore either. Yep.
I know. Okay, well,
Give
I'm
them
saying
their
I'm
time.
hoping.
They'll
I'm
do it when
hoping.
it's right.
I'm hoping. Let me say this about it for those of you who haven't played PTU. You can definitely see a performance difference in the game.
Yeah.
Tremendous performance in the game. Most people are saying the game is running so smooth. A lot of the bugs that I've been running into and other people run into have been more client based than 30K based. But there's a lot of good stuff in there. So don't let the 318 patch fool you. There's a lot of stuff in I've only seen one river since I've been in this sucker. And I know there's tons of them. I finally got to go to the racetrack at Orison the other day for the first time. You know, I got to do salvaging in a vulture once. I got into a reclaimer twice. But there's so much in this patch. So we would tell you guys, look forward to it and enjoy it when it does go to PTU live. Some people will say they wait for live, and that's cool too. But I will tell you, we're having a lot of fun in PTU with it right now.
Oh yeah.
So I was going to say,
Definitely.
definitely with that. Okay, let's talk about what's got coming up. Abdi, would you mind talking about Thursday? Kalrati, would you talk about Saturday? And I'll talk about Sunday.
Yeah. So Thursdays is our Soul Talk show on Thursdays at 9 p.m. ET. That show is hosted by Fast Cart, another one of our Soul citizens who is not on the show right now, but he hosts that every Thursday. But just because he's the host doesn't mean that it's just about him. The Thursday show is about
he thinks it's just about him.
Large.
He thinks it's about him. Don't worry, that's what
And
he
his
thinks.
buns.
Stand up at the Apollo.
No,
but he leads a show where basically we all get to have a voice. So if you are interested in getting on the show and want to talk, join the Discord that we have. I think our Discord is somewhere on our Twitch page. So you can join that and then join the voice chat and you can get on the show. Basically, we talk through the events of the week. And everything that has to do with Star Citizen that's been going down. Oftentimes the news that Wednesday we get the a lot of big Star Citizen info. So we go through all of that, and then we also watch things like Machinima, really good stuff. So if you want to talk about that as a group with other like-minded cool people like Fast Cart, is just so funny, and I'm still waiting for him to send me that check. Feel free to join us at that time.
Kalrati, on you.
All right, Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We cover, well, it's still Voices time. So we cover so many different things. So we talk about community concerns. We delve into Spectrum. We delve into Subreddit. We delve into even Star Citizen refunds sometimes. And we just look at, everybody, if they have any questions, any concerns about the development, about the project, about many different things. And we basically talk about them. And everyone is free to actually join in and offer their opinions and all those things. So that's Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, Still Voices. Come and check it out. Voice your own concerns too, if you want to. And yeah, just come and be part of the family.
Okay, awesome sauce, awesome. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about our show next Sunday. Any of y'all recognize what that is? If y'all old school, y'all know what that is.
I remember that. That's the stuff that gets stuck in your teeth real bad.
Now later, what is that?
It is so good that you put it that way. The things that get stuck in your teeth. That's right. Our show next week is called, well, you know what? If you grew up in the hood, all right, it was not called Now and Later.
Oh, you bleed those words bleed
You
together.
bleed them words together. Say it, DM. How do you say it? How you say it?
Now and later.
Now later. Now later. All right. That's how you say it. Now later.
I was like,
Now
okay,
later.
okay,
All right.
Okay,
All right.
thanks, Dirk.
So Kalrati ain't from up here in the US with the hood. All right. So it is a hard candy that you suck on. It has these flavors, and when you're a kid, you just love eating these things to death. All right. But we're going to be doing a show next week called Now and Later. What's the show about? It's about something that we always hear people say. People will see something in the game and say, Star Citizen should have did blah, 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 blah. And we have to tell them, well, that's the way it is now, but later it will be such and such, such and such, okay? So that's what the conversation is going to be about next week. What are all those things in the game right now that sometimes people think, oh, CIG is just doing this, and we're just finding out, no, it's just tier 0, or it's just tier 1, that they have told us when they're done, it's going to be blah, 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 okay? So that's going to be the show for next week, is now and later. Okay, before we go, you know what we didn't do and we should have done? And I kept thinking about it and I forgot about it. Let's do a giveaway. We did the cargo show today.
Nice.
Cargo show today, right? So let's do a delivery. I mean, yeah, something delivery. Let's see. Let's do it as, since we're talking about delivery and stuff and whatnot, let's do it for the Argo Raft. We got one with LTI.
Ooh, nice.
LTI Argo Raft. If you guys want to get in on this giveaway, for you wonderful people who are here with us on this subject, put in exclamation point raft, exclamation point raft, and that will get you into the giveaway. And we'll give that away. We'll do that in just a couple seconds here. We want to give special thanks to our guest, DigitalMaster137. Hope you had a good time. Hope you come back.
I really enjoyed myself.
Hey, you put that link in the chat, man. I need to get on that.
Put your link back in.
Yeah.
You all make sure you go see him. He's on YouTube. He's gonna start. He's considering firing up Twitch a little bit more. Y'all make sure. Y'all make sure y'all check the brother out. He's a real uplifting brother. He's really got positive energy on his videos. So check him out when you guys get time. Don't forget to check out Abdi. Abdi says he's gonna start streaming again. We're gonna have to wait and see. That's what he says he's gonna do.
My goal was to work on my resume because I need to get a new job. So once I got that done,
okay, I understand.
Yeah, I know,
that.
right? Once I got that figured out, now it's going to go back to streaming time and illustration too. If you're interested in, so yeah,
okay,
at the same time.
All right. Shoot, I need to be hiring you to do all our graphics. I'm getting tired of doing all this stuff. Shoot.
Bro, if you want to.
You're driving me crazy, man. I have to be coming up with all this stuff every month, driving me ape, boy. Good night. Good night ideas.
I'm a senior graphic designer now. So
let me tell you something. So you can't see it. See, this is the thing that, I'm an OCD person. If you look at that thing for now and later, if you notice, can you read what it says on it? You probably can't. Y'all keep on putting in exclamation point raft if you're interested in a Argo raft with LTI. Let me see if I can find
you
it.
put Star Citizen on that. I didn't. Hey,
yeah, I see what I'm talking about. See what I'm talking. See what I'm talking about. People,
you didn't just take that off of Google Images.
There's no appreciation for my hard labor. Okay.
No, I love it, man. I love it.
Okay.
Actually,
look at it. Okay, you gotta look at it real good. Okay, look at it. Not done yet.
Oh my God! I see it now. It was right in between the lines.
Look at that. Yeah, right down here. The non-lasting alpha. Look at the non-lasting alpha. Development flavored. Okay, I mean, you
got to change the Twitter cover page. You got the Twitter cover image. You got to change it to that for now. Every week.
Is that what I got to do?
Put your work up there.
Maybe put it up there. Okay, I didn't think about it. That's a good place to put it. You're right.
We want to see your work.
I'm putting all this labor in, and my labor of love, and I'm telling you, my OCD drives me crazy. I start doing one little thing. It's like, no, I need to change that. No, I need. And next thing you know, it's like 2 hours working on this stupid graphic.
Yeah.
All right.
Story of my life, except for I don't have that much time because my boss gets mad at me.
All right, gang. We're gonna go ahead and roll. We're gonna roll this thing and get somebody a Argo raft with LTI. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Everybody's in. Exclamation point on the count 3. Wait a minute, I gotta make sure I have the right screen up so I can see who wins. Okay, on the count 3, 2, 1, and it is. Oh, Square 2. Oh my goodness, Square 2.
Congrats.
Square 2, man. You are the winner of an Argo raft with LTI. Congratulations, my friend. Way to go, Square 2. Square 2 is one of our people who's here almost every week. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with us today. Once again, special thanks to DigitalMaster137. Thank you again to AbdiYohan and Kalrati, my smart guys that are here tonight. All three of these guys are just intelligent brothers. And we want to tell you guys, thank you for being here with us today. Square 2, make sure we'll talk after the show. Well, I may not be here because I got to run. Do me a favor, Square 2, send your RSI email address to me, and I will make sure that you get this item as soon as possible. We're going to set up for a raid. We're going to be raiding Toxic Nightbear. when you guys get over there with her, make sure that you let her know that you came over from the Soul Citizens. If you like what you see, make sure you follow and like what she does. And until next time, hopefully we'll see you guys next week. See you on Soul Talk or Voices, or for now and later next Sunday. Until then, as always, peace, love, and soul. See you guys real soon. Take care.
Take care all.
Take care, people.